Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to be making Damascus out of chainsaw blades. What do chainsaw blades look like, you ask? They look like this. They just look like over-engineered bike chains, and we're going to be making Damascus out of them. Before I start doing that, or explaining how I'm going to do it to you, I first need to get ready for the job. We don't need those yet. So first I'm going to start by explaining how we're going to get all this welded together to try to stay together. And I'm also going to show you. So I hope you enjoy that. And I'll see you in just a second. So the way that I'm going to weld this is I've already tried some Damascus with this pipe in particular. And just the one length like this isn't enough. So I'm going to stack it like so. Weld it so that I have more length, and then I'm going to cut this one in half, flatten it out, trace the top and bottom on it, and then cut it out and weld the bottom. And then after that, I'm going to cut these chains and blades to the length of the container and cut as many as I can fit in there. And then after that, I got this 1080 with 4% nickel, and that nickel will resist that ferric chloride etch and create a nice contrast with this, which will go very dark with that etch. And then I'll put it in, I'll get it to get into all the nooks and crannies, weld it, drill a hole so it doesn't explode on me when I heat it up, and squish it, and hopefully it all gets together. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna weld these two bits together like so that I can get the length that I need to cut for the chainsaw blades. And then we'll go from there. All right, you guys ready to see the worst weld of your lives? Doesn't look pretty, but it's functional, and that's all that matters. All right, so this is the worst weld you've ever seen in your life. It's so bad, but it's gonna hold. It'll hold, and it'll hold all the metal that's in there, and I need to get those wires out, but it'll hold all the metal in there, and that's all that matters, is that it will work. All right, so the next step, since I welded those two canisters together to make one big canister, is to cut these to length, stick them in the forge to burn off anything that'll burn off, and then clean them with degreaser to try to get the rest of that grime off, and then stick them in the canister, put the powder in the canister, seal the canister, and be done. I'm ready to squish. All right, we got them all cut to size. So from here, we're gonna put it into the forge and burn off anything that can burn off. And then after that, we're gonna try to clean it with degreaser to get anything else off. And then we're gonna move on from there. All right, so off camera, I got the cap on because I already know I'm gonna get comments on the first weld. So I'm gonna clean the rest of the chain and then stick it in here, get the powder in here, and hopefully start pressing some metal together, and hopefully it sticks together. That's the hope anyway. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Of the degrease, whatever else got on there from the sponge, and they should be clean enough to start welding and putting in the canister and all that fun stuff. So let's get to it. All right, we got all the chainsaw chain and blades in there. We got the one end welded up. So what I'm thinking of doing is squishing this end with the press or the hammer or whatever else, and then welding whatever holes I can see, but leaving a hole big enough that I can put some 1080 with the 4% nickel down in there. And then we'll start heating it up and getting ready for forge weld. All right, we got the end on, so our tongs have something to grab onto. We got the hole drilled so it doesn't just explode on me from the pressure of the heat and everything expanding. And I got the top welded on. Now, my only worry is this big enough to fit this, at least portions of it, to squish it and weld it? Or do I have to wait to seal that all and use my old forge? We will figure it out. That's the fun of working in bladesmithing. You figure it out as you go. All right, so it's been about a day or two, and I think I made a stupid decision to try to put the two together because now it won't fit in my regular forge, and I don't have the things to recoat this one, which is a 3-burner, much longer forge that would probably work. So the plan, since I can't recoat that just yet, I don't have the funds to do so. So what I'm gonna do is try to forge weld the middle of that billet, forge weld it as good as I can, and then cut it in half and then treat it like 2 different billets. And then we'll go from there. Ready for the journey. So you might be thinking, it looks cool. Why don't you start working with it and cutting with it? Well, what you don't see is what the dark will show you. Let me show you real quick. And now you see why we give it just a little more time, just to cool down to the touch, at least. It would not be good if I touched that while it was still just glowing hot. A little. So what I'm doing right now is I'm waiting for this to cool down so I can touch it with my bare hands and maneuver it and tool it and whatever else. And when it is cooled down just enough, I'm gonna cut it right where I put the two tubes together, the two canisters, and hopefully I got that middle welded so I can cut it and then use those two different billets that'll fit in my forge, because this one billet was a very big mistake. All right, so it's cooled down enough that I can touch it. And it's been the next day because I had things I had to go do. But it's cool to the touch now. I touch it, tool it, do whatever I need to do with it. So I'm gonna cut it right here on the weld so it's in two sort of even pieces, and then squish the rest of this out, and hopefully I'll have two different billets for knives. But first, before I cut this in half, I have to cut a piece of those railroad spikes so that I have something to grab onto with the tongs with one of those billets, because one side has a handle and the other side does not have a handle. So I gotta fix that. So I'm gonna cut this, and then I'm gonna cut the billet, and then we're gonna heat them up and squish them, and hopefully they all stick together, but we'll see. See you in a bit. All right, so I'm really happy, and I'll tell you why, and I'll show you why right now. But I got the middle welded perfectly. It is solid. But the rest from where I didn't press it down definitely needs to be welded together still. It's still really hollow, but the more you got to the middle, the more solid it was. So I suspected it was all welded together pretty solid. There's some pitting in there. I'll fix that. But I'm happy. I'm happy it worked out, and we cut it in half, and it all worked out fine. And now to get a handle on this one, and I'll start getting this one to forge temps. But I'll let you guys watch this one. It's a little bit more interesting than my welding jobs. But anyway, enjoy the forge. I'll see you in just a second. So what we're gonna do with the two billets that I just got all forged out and everything is I'm going to sand one side flat, cut it in half, and then I'm gonna fold it on that nice even half, and then weld all the seams so that when I squish it again, there's less likely of a chance of like this happening inside of the billet, which will prevent it from welding together nicely. And also, that was the casing. The casing was so thin and worked so perfectly that all the scale and all that other stuff just prevented it from welding to the Damascus, which is what I wanted, but it's also just falling off. which is perfect. It's exactly what I wanted. And I'm really happy with that. So we'll cut off the ends. This end, maybe that end, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's kind of cracked. And then I'm gonna sand it, make it as flat as possible, cut, fold, weld, seam, forge, weld, squish, and that'll be the last of that. That'll be the last of the Damascus billets. But until then, let's get this ground down flat and cut off. What do you say? Alright, now that we got the ends all cut off and ready to go, we're gonna flatten these out so that we can cut them in half again, weld the seams, squish them together, and be done! See you in a second. Just 1 second, just boom. Alright, from here we're going to take these to the wire wheel, try to clean all those pits that I couldn't get out because there's just too much material to take away, and all the nasty stuff that is going to be on the sides that we're going to weld. I might do that after I cut them in half so that I'm not manhandling them, getting more oils on them. So we're probably going to cut them in half. First, go to the wire wheel, clean it up, weld them up, stick the bar on one end so that I have a handle for the tongs, and then after that, squish in the middle. Alright, let's do it. Alright, they're all welded up together, they're ready to go. I've worked on my welding a little bit. It's a little better. Not a big improvement, but just a little. I don't know what happened here, don't ask. But from here on, we squish them. And that'll be the last squish, and I'll show you guys the pattern after that. See you guys in a bit. So these are all drawn out. I've cleaned them a little bit. Could be cleaner, but I don't think I'm gonna draw them out anymore. I think I'm gonna use the grinder to clean the sides up so that they're ready for a core, a hardenable core. But I'm gonna wait for them to cool down, and then I will grind one end of both of these to show you guys the pattern, and then that'll be it. Let me show you something. Ready? That would have been my skin if I handled that at all. So we're gonna give it a second to cool down, and I'll see you guys in just a second. All right. Number one, going into going into the etch. Like so. And now, number two. When I see it, you'll see it. But you're probably going to see it first. We're going to stick the other billet in for just a second. Billet 2 is going to sit. Here's billet 1. Going to rinse it off. Alright, you guys are going to see it before I do. You ready? How does it look? Wow. That is beautiful. That is really, really nice looking. That is going to look beautiful on a knife. I really like that one. That one turned out really nicely. Now let's check billet number 2. See how that one went. I'm going to stick this into the water so that it can neutralize some of the acid while I'm doing stuff. Mix things up a little. Dilute that acid just a little more. I'll stick this one back in here, move it around a little bit. Maybe get some more etch into this one, make it a little darker, more contrast. All right. Cover on it because we really don't want someone in the shop to get into that. All right. Haven't seen it yet at all. I'm going to neutralize some of the acid and show you guys billet number 2. All right. I didn't see it. Billet number 2. How's it looking? Wow, that one's really thick. Kind of like the thickness of this one, actually. Pretty bold. That one's looking real nice, actually. Very bold contrast. I'm kind of digging it. So yeah, that is my first 2 Demascus. Technically 1 if you're watching from the beginning, but complications. So yeah, Demascus. Really nice looking Demascus. Again, sticking it in the water to neutralize it so it soaks just a little more. And I will switch this water out before I use it next time. But until then, thanks for watching. I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed all my shenanigans. I hope you come back next time, because next time we're gonna have a jolly good time. So, see you next time. Thanks for watching.